My name's Sean Stone Ramsey. I grew up in Oakland, California, born and raised in Oakland, California. I grew up in the 65th village. My father was a construction worker, and he was in and out of my life. And at 12, he got killed on Seminary. And that was a block that we moved to in East Oakland. They call it the Kill Zone. We moved from 65th village to Seminary. Well, Seminary is a street. There's something about that street, man, that just creates a lot of creativity, bro. I don't know what it is. It's something about that street, and it's also one of the main veins that take you to the Oakland Coliseum. So it's always a lot of traffic up and down that street, and that's where I started growing. That's where I grew up at. And my dad got killed, Preston Gordon. He got shot 7 times, execution style, on Seminary. So from then on, it was like I was like a cork in an ocean. I was just bobbing, wherever I was influenced. And the strongest influence was the streets. I definitely looked up to Felix Mitchell. He was the neighborhood superstar growing up in the village and on Seminary, because his family grew up, had houses on Seminary. So Seminary was just like a colonized part of the village, of 65th and 69th village. So I grew up, idolizing him. And
Judge Patel described Mitchell and his gang's actions in Oakland as, quote, some of the most despicable, heinous conduct any community has ever had to live with.
The Rolls Royces and the limousines, and he had the swag, and everybody in our neighborhood, wanted to be like him. I also grew up with Lil D Reed. We the same age. We was in kindergarten class together, and we grew up just real cool, because we both came from the village and moved on Seminary. So he was the brother that I came up with and was definitely influenced by. I work with artists like Mac Dre, Mac Mall, Drew Down, E40, the Luniz. They were real famous for their hit "I Got 5" on it. And I put out my own compilation that featured all those artists and many more. It was called International Blunt Funk, and it turned out to be a Bay Area hip-hop classic. Also had a group that I was managing called 3 Times Crazy, and one of the artists on there was Keek the Sneak, and he's the originator of the hyphy movement in the Bay Area right now. So working with those dudes right there, it connect me with a lot of other different artists in the Bay Area, and engineers and producers, and just a motley crew of people in the entertainment field. Oakland is like, it's the west that you can be when it comes to this country, unless you go off to Hawaii and things like that. It's also like the cultural center for Northern California for us African Americans. A lot of great people came from there. Bill Russell, the great basketball player, Ricky Henderson, Andre Ward, the great boxer, Devin Haney, one of the up-and-coming boxers right now. I mean, it means many things, and we just have our own style. We're like one of the only cities that's this close to LA, and we don't have any Crips and Bloods in our city, because we still have the rhythms and vibrations of the Panthers within us. In that portion of the city, it was a lot of rappers there. So you had guys like Pooh Man. He had a gold record called Fucking with Dank. You had brothers like the Luniz that was down the street. So you had Too Short was coming in our neighborhood. Just all these legendary rappers, and so it was just a real popular hangout place to be. And so me being from Seminary and growing up in the street, as I started getting in the game, selling drugs and things like that, I just knew a lot of people. I was what you would call a connector. It wasn't too many people that I didn't know, and so I had one of my best friends, was named Joseph the Gov Flowers. He decided he wanted to rap, and so he had an EP, and he had Tupac Shakur and Richie Rich on it, and so every time he went to go to do a show and things like that, he was like, "Stone, man, I want you to come with me." But I'm like, man, I'm stuck on the block. I'm trying to get this money. I'm not a rapper. I don't make no beats. This is not me. This is my lane right here. And so one day he came with Tupac and Rich. He's like, "Man, Stone, hit the corner with me." And so I jumped in the car with him, and he just drove to LA, and we went on the show. And when I got to the show, even though I was mad because I was damn near kidnapped, I fell in love with hip hop, right then and there, by being able to interact with different people. And by me not being a rapper, I wasn't competition to the rappers or the producers or nothing like that. I was just a dude, with some common sense, who was sharp and had a little bit of money, and I wasn't in nobody's way. And so learning the business from there, I would go to different shows and I would make different contacts. So when Gov caught a Fed case, he got indicted by the feds with his brother Anthony Flowers. He called me and he asked me, he said, "Stone, man, you know everybody I know, and why don't you help me finish the album?" And so that's what I did. And so by me knowing all those contacts like that, it just evolved from there. Right, we were selling a lot of coke. We were selling keys of coke, and we definitely had the city on lock, And when Lil D took his fall, the streets was wide open, and so seminary was wide open, and so what we did is we did what we had to do as a young man. We had to go for what we knew, and that's what we was doing. I don't really like talking about it, but this was going on. When you young like that, and everybody around you selling drugs and you making money like that, you don't have no conscience. You think this is what you're supposed to be doing. But when I made the transition from selling drugs to hip hop, I knew that was my calling. I knew when I sold dope, it wasn't to be the baddest motherfucker on the block, or I knew it wasn't gonna be my life. I did this. This was a transition period for me, and at the time, being in the game, you wanted to be in the game, but you already knew that this wasn't gonna be forever. Unprecedented time, right? Because it was never before. You got some young dudes, got some money from the streets, money from the crack gang. We don't got no big homeboys to tell us what to do with our money, and we ain't got no big homeboys that ever had a record label. So we just was like, we had hands-on knowledge, and we didn't have no skill set. We just like, we had these talented people, talented young cats, but we really didn't know what to do. But we knew how to sell dope, and the music game was just like the dope game, and so that's how we merged into it. When I merged into the rap game, I left the dope game alone. At least we tried to, but it's kind of hard because you still stuck in the streets, and the genre that you pushing is talking about the streets. So if you're gonna be authentic, you really gotta be about that life. It was a transition, but it wasn't. When Gov went to the feds, him and his brother, he got out on ankle monitor, and while he was on ankle monitor fighting the case, we started a rap label called Handlebar Records, and the name of our cadre was called Paraphernalia to the Mob, and it consisted of 3 Times Crazy, which was Bart, Adrian, and Keek the Sneak, the Luniz, Yuckmouth, and Numbskull, Drew Down, and Sido, T Looney and Eclipse, and Swoop G. He was a member of the Dog Pound. He was rapping with Death Row. So we all one group. They were signed to 5 different labels. East West Electric, Siler was signed to East West Electric. The Luniz was signed to New Tribe. 3 Times Crazy was signed to New Tribe. Drew Down was signed to Relativity Records. And my compilation was signed to Intermittent Records, which was home to Master P and E40 and Too Short's first album. So we had all this talent, you know, in one nucleus, in one conglomerate, you know. And so everybody in the Bay Area, you know, wanted to, you know, be a part of this movement, or they wanted somebody from our clique to write, somebody from our clique to do a verse, you know, or something like that. So they were coveted. My mother, she was going to college. She was going to San Francisco State University, and I had an older sister. She was like 3 years older. She was in a rough neighborhood, and so, you know, I'm a light-skinned dude, a light-skinned kid with green eyes and red hair. It was either, you know, get talked about or you know, do some pushing around, and you know, I just grew up tough. My mother also volunteered for the Black Panther Party, and a funny story. As she was volunteering for the Black Panther Party, you know, I was a fuck up. I was bad. I mean, I had been to every juvenile institution in Northern California, Chabot, Los Cerros, every department, justice. I had been there from Chabot and Los Cerros. I graduated and went to YA number 49259, and I went all around the YAs. I maxed out. I did my whole YA number. I was only supposed to do a certain amount of time, but I did my whole sentence, you know, fighting, robbery, selling dope, because that's how I started off, like, you know, petty crime, robberies and shit like that. But then when the crack game came, then all that petty shit was gone for me. It was about selling dope. You know, you could get a bag of dope for the low and go straight on Seminary and sell every last rock you had all day long, you know. It got so to the point to where Seminary was rolling so hard that, you know, we would all be out there and everybody would sell dope. Everybody would sell every last rock they had. You know, it would get so cold sometimes. I would fake like somebody stole my dope just so everybody could leave and I can have all the clientele to myself, you know. So it was, you know, it was wild. It was a wild time. I was one of the first dudes to bring cell phones in prison, right? Through the visiting area, right? Funny story. I had a partner. He was getting family visits, right? So we was trying to figure out how to get cell phones in prison, right? So I had seen some type of story about some chicks had got some soap and cut the soap up in like a little powder, and then got the phone and then wrapped up the soap and shaped up the soap to where it's just like a bar of soap, put it in a soap dish and brung it in, right? So I told my partner who was getting family visit about it, right? So what we did for about 2 weeks, we had got the state soap and we was grating it up into fine powder to figure out how we could make it. So it took us 2 weeks to make a little case to where we can put the cell phone up in there and wrap it up with the soap. And we even went so far to put pubic hairs on the motherfucker and put it in the soap just so they wouldn't even want to fuck with the motherfucker. So he ended up getting the cell phone in. And so we would use it back and forth, right? And because he had conjugal visit, his girl come see him, and he told her what to do on a visit, and she brung it in and threw from the van, and that's how they got it in. So when he got the phone up in there, we would use it. But as you would know, if it's only one phone, it's just like with one car, it's gonna be an issue. So we had a disagreement, let's just say, about the use of the phone. So I was kind of heated, right? And I wanted to do something other than being diplomatic. And I said to myself, I can't be mad at him. That's his phone. So I went back to my cell and I picked up a newspaper, and a slip fell out of the newspaper, and it was a little phone. It was an advertisement for a little phone, and it was about this big, right? And so it fell on top of my shoe, and I had the Air Force Ones at the time. I was fresh, brand new Air Force One, and I was like, what? And so I got it, and I picked up my shoe, and I put it on the inside of my shoe. I said, okay, the phone can go in this shoe, and the battery can go in the other shoe. All I gotta do is get my son to come up here. I'm visiting, I'm gonna switch shoes with him. I'm gonna have him wear the same shoes that I wear, and I'm gonna wear the same shoes, and we're gonna switch shoes, and I'm gonna walk this motherfucker back in. So what I did is I went to visiting, and I told my girl, I said, I want you to go find a cobbler, and that's a person who fixes shoes, right? And tell him that you finna be moving and you wanna hide some of your jewelry, and can you make these measurements? And I don't care how much it costs, I'm gonna pay it, right? And that's what she did. And so next thing you know, she came back and she did the job. I had the cell phone in this shoe, and I had the battery in that shoe. So boom, I get the motherfucker in. While I got the cell phone in there now, I gotta watch everything around me, because now the youngsters, if they act wild, they're gonna come down to my area and fuck up my cell, and they're gonna find my phone. So what I had to do from that moment on is watch everything around me. If somebody owed a Mexican a debt, magically I'm gonna pay that motherfucker, because I would rather for me to pay a debt for $50, $60 than lose all the money that I was making on my phone. By me being in a rap industry and being well known, you know, in the entertainment field, naturally, organically, youngsters that was in the prison was gonna gravitate towards me. So I would go to the yard, I'd be working out and doing things like that, and then, you know, gradually one youngster gonna come walk up to me, and then another, you know, and it's gonna be, you know, that's how it was. On the yards, what I would do is I would hold classes, because a lot of the youngsters would come up to me and they would ask me, like, man, Stone, how do you get into, what about the rap game? And I heard you was hooked up with 3 Times Crazy and the Luniz and all that, man. I heard you was hooked up with Pac and them. Man, tell me about it. So they would want to, you know, spend some time with me and share knowledge. So if one dude come, it'd eventually be another dude come. So it ended up being a class, right? So I had another dude named Curtis Carroll, and he was a whiz with stocks. So he seen how the youngsters would gravitate towards me, and he said, "Man, let's just hold a class. You do the rap, the hip hop. You teach them hip hop, and I'm gonna teach them stocks, right?" And so from afar, if you're from a guard, if you're in a guard gun tower, and you see, you know, some Africans, African Americans walking together and with books, and then after, you know, they're gathering, you know, to whoever scope of brain or mentality you have, you know, you have different lenses. So, you know, one might take that to be, you know, a gang meeting, you know, and gang materials being, you know, proliferated and things like that. But we was honestly, you know, educating each other. And so what happened was, anytime something violent or anything happened on the yard, the authorities would come and would come jack me up, you know, regardless if I tried to be somebody of influence or not. It didn't matter if I tried or not, you know, they were gonna come and jack me. And so they would blame me for anything that happened on the yard, good or bad, because, okay, if you didn't do it, you could have prevented it, because that's how they felt. So one thing led to another. Something, you know, somebody got stabbed on a yard, and they came to my cell, and they found a book by George Jackson, Blood in My Eye, and another book, Solidaire Brother, and I got a dragon on my back arm, and so they used that to validate me as a gang member, and they put me in a hole, and it wasn't disciplinary, so I couldn't fight it, as I committed a crime. It was administrative. Yeah. So it was say for instance, if you're a high profile inmate, for your quote unquote, for your danger or for the greater good, they could put you in solitary confinement and say it's administrative for your own good, for your own protection. In this case, they put me in a hole and deemed me a member of the Black Guerrilla family because they found 2 books by George Jackson, and they found a dragon on my arm, and I had to them de facto influence, the influencer, the de facto influencer of the yard. So I was put in a hole for 5 years. I was in a hole 2.5 years waiting on a bed space because they had put so many inmates in solitary confinement that the cells were full to capacity. So I waited 2.5 years to get from ADSEG, which is a hole, to get to the SHU, which was called the Secured Housing Units, where they house the worst of the worst criminals. Pelican Bay and Corcoran SHU. They had 2. The Corcoran was the short quarter, and Pelican Bay was up almost on the Oregon border. So when they validate you as a gang member, you would go to either or, wherever bed space was available. And being in the SHU, typically the only time you got released out of there is if you died or you paroled. No one, when you validated that, they never let you out the SHU. It's
you have to debrief.
Oh, you got to debrief. It's indefinite SHU program. Either you snitch, debrief, or you stay in solitary confinement in perpetuity forever. So in my case, they put me in a hole. I didn't debrief, and I just stayed true. While I was in a hole, I wrote 7 books, and one of them was, I wrote 7 books in a book of poems called If My Soul Had Tattoos. And that's what kept me occupied in solitary confinement, because writing became a therapy of sort to me. My gate money went to Corcoran, so I paroled from San Quentin with just the money I had left on my prison account, and that was $16, so I had like $1 for every year I was in prison, and they didn't give a fuck. I couldn't even cash the shit because I had a prison ID. I mean, it was like being cracked out of an egg of irrelevancy onto the hot skillet of the earth. And then it just being fried by all the fucking shit that's going on, the technology and the people who you thought they was 16 years ago, they ain't there, so you just adapting, and it was trying, but every day was like a fucking movie to me out, because it was like, oh, you motherfuckers let me out? Is y'all let me out? Oh, okay. So it was like, every day just been like, it's been surreal. And I paroled, I wrote, like I said, I wrote 7 books. Every year I was out, I released a book. My first book I released with Keek the Snake. I attempted to create like a subgenre of hip hop literature. I was the first dude in Oakland to get a hip hop rapper and put him on the cover of my book and cross promote and cross market, both fan bases, and it did good. And so the next year I did the follow up of it, and then the third year I did Warrior, and I did it with artists by the name of Mr. Fab. He's a Grammy nominated artist, doing good as well. I worked on a couple of TV shows, Underworld Incorporated, season 2, episode 2, a Netflix original called Dope. And so I just used like all the things that I could glean from prison that was transferable. I just brought them out here, and I just just trying to make the best possible version of myself. I always feel like I read something somewhere said that anything that isn't growing is truly dead. And so I just always try to reinvent myself. I always try to learn. I always try to improve myself. I'm a forever student, and I think what keeps me going is I try to give back. I try to work with people who are my ilk and people who went through the same thing that I went through. And I think that what empowers me is just being able to give back and trying to prevent people that to go through the same thing that I went through. The documentary I'm doing right now is called Truth Be Told, The Dark Side of Gentrification. And it's essentially about urban renewal that's going on in Oakland, California, and actually all around the United States. And Oakland, California, and the gentrification that's going on there is just a microcosm of what's going on all around the world. All around the United States, especially in major cities. And what we're doing in that movie there is just posing the question: can there be urban renewal without black removal? Do we have to move all the culture out of the city to renew it? And can we empower the people who were there, the original people of that city, to be better? I mean, we're not saying that we don't want urban renewal, and it's not a finger pointing parade or a pity party. We just want to ask those questions to find some common ground. Can there be urban renewal without black removal?
All right, and what are you guys in production right now?
Absolutely, we're in production right now. It's going to be on all major streaming platforms and things like that. I'm also COO of All Bay Music Magazine. It's the #1 music magazine in the Bay Area. So I give a lot of energy to the new artists that's coming up and try to help them put their shit out there. When it was time to go for me to take a deal, I refused to take a deal, right? And I wanted to go to trial. And so my attorney was just looking at me like I was crazy. So he whipped out his cell phone, and he called my mom. He said, "Miss Renee, I'm gonna tell you right now, your son's gonna want to go to trial. He can beat the case, but he's not gonna beat the jury." He says, "It's number white people on that jury. It's a no-brainer. You need to talk to your son right now. If you want to see him again free on the streets, you need to talk to your son." Because I was hard-headed. I didn't want to take the case because I knew it was some bullshit, And so I was in handcuffs, so I couldn't even talk. So he had to put the phone to my ear. And my mom just told me, she said, "Son, just take the case. Just you gonna come. You got a date."
Yeah.
And so, that was what convinced me to even take a deal. I had been going to jail in and out of my life, in and out of jail all my life. So it was like throwing a fish in water. So I understood the ebb and flow of the politics of prison. I knew can't use no joke. I can't gamble. I can't be involved in nothing out of pocket. And I had to carry myself and whatever I believe in, I just had to stand on it. And so by me knowing those ethics and those morals and having integrity, I just came in and did what I was supposed to do. It was a lot of politics though. In the California prisons, you have the most segregated prison system that I believe exists, because you have the Northerners, Mexicans, you have the Southern Mexicans, you have Crips, you have Bloods, you have Bulldogs, you have the Aryan Brotherhood. It goes on and on, and each one of those have their own territory, their own ways of doing things, their own politics, on ethos, on culture, you name it, and you gotta be abreast of everything if you wanna leave prison alive, because one misunderstanding could cost you your life. For 2.5 years, I waited for a bed space, and so I went from the hole at the prison that I was at to Corcoran Shoe. And when I got to Corcoran Shoe, you had to be classified and to be housed in the solitary confinement shoe of that prison. So when you go there, you go to classification. Of course, you got to be shackled from your ankles and your shoulders, and then you got the whole goon squad, the gang committee. They're there to escort you there because you are a part of you've been validated as a gang member, so they have to escort you everywhere you go like a special escort. So here I am. I'm in classification. I'm shackled from head to foot. The goon squad is behind me, and they ask you, are you cool to be housed with anybody? And do you have any problems? No, I don't have any problems with anybody. Okay, so they cleared me, and so it's time for to get a cellie now. So now I can get a cellie. First I couldn't get a cellie because I was a gang member. Now, since I'm in a shoe, I'm forced to get a cellie, because if I don't get a cellie, they're gonna take my TV that I can now get, and other things I can get. So now I'm forced in a situation, I gotta get a cellie, and so forth and so on. And they're all watching, and most of the dudes knew me, so they're banging on the wall, on the door, like, "Hey, bro, what's going on? Hey, man, hey, Ray Stone." And so they bring the guy out, and it's, like I said, it's the dude who actually killed Huey P. Newton. And so they asked, "Is it cool? Can you guys be compatible?" So you're in a situation where it's like, okay, all right, I got an out date. This dude don't. Everybody watching, even the goon squad watching. So if I say I don't want to go and sit with this dude, it's gonna look like I'm a sucker. Regardless, I want to go up in there or not. And so when he come out, I know him. He's a brother that I know. Man, he like, "Stone, man, what's going on? Man, I ain't had a cellie in 2 years. Come on." So who am I to, say, "Hey, man," because regardless of what kind of crime you do, you still got human rights. Yeah. I mean, you still got redeemable qualities. And the community had accepted him. So who am I? So I get there in the cell, and and it's like, I know him, and he, actually the whole unit, the corridor, embracing me because it was a breath of fresh air. Here's a new dude coming, solid dude, ain't no piece of shit. And he's coming in, and he bringing some good energy, there. But it's like, being in that situation, being in the cell with that brother, it was like every time they would have like visitors or tourists or prison officials coming from different institutions, it was like they would always come to our cell. They would always hone in right there. The funny thing is that, you know, when I left the cell with him, he got a new cellie, and that cellie ain't there. He ain't, you know, that dude didn't make it. Yeah. That dude got his neck broke, you know, allegedly. Yeah. You know, being in a hole was crazy because I actually doing 16 years and I was finna parole. So I petitioned the prison officials to get some type of re-entry and pre-parole classes. Like, man, hey, man, I did gone 16 years. Aren't you guys gonna give me some type of preparation to be out? And so they denied my grievance and said, no, you're not afforded any preparation. You're in the hole. Mm. And so I said, man, but I didn't do anything to be here. It's administrative. And they said, so it's crazy. It's like when I paroled, my parole agent had to come pick me up. And he had to pick me up from San Quentin. And because Corcoran is like down in LA and I'm from Oakland. So I'm being paroled to the Bay. So they had to transfer me to Corcoran 3 days, from Corcoran 3 days before I was paroled to San Quentin. So, because they had to put an ankle monitor as soon as I got out, you know, because I'm allegedly gang member, gang leader.
They think you're going to come out on the street and call shots for the BGA.
Right, allegedly, right? So, you know, typically you get $200 gate money when you get out, you know, from, you know, to help you transition back to the street. But because I was in Corcoran and I paroled from San Quentin,